Good morning, fellow traders. It's Black Coffee Trader. It is May the 21st, and we are back at it again. It is good to be back in front of the desk. Let's just dive into today's trade plan. Looking at the markets, I haven't looked at these markets in almost a week. I did look at the markets a couple days ago, but looking back, from when we last traded, which was back, I think, on like the 13th, somewhere in here, I took a trade. We have kind of, on the NASDAQ for sure, really all of the markets, but we've had this big push up, and then we really just kind of went into a sideways channel here for the last, about a week. So a couple things that are standing out to me as far as the NASDAQ is concerned. You have this fairly consistent low here around the 240s. You've got another low, pretty nice low here around the 200s, the 21-200s, and we have another one here around the 150s. And this one stems from lows coming back in February, so I'm leaving that on the charts. I thought about moving that down here to the 116s, but I'm going to leave that because it does stem from some lows like back in February, like we talked about. So I also thought about putting in a couple of levels here above on some of these highs, but I really like yesterday's high of day, and I think that's the setup I'd be looking for if we get a push up above yesterday's high of day and kind of above this really kind of the 500s to this high of day yesterday around the 475s. If we can see some holds in this area, that could set up a nice long all the way up here into the 700s. So I do like that. I'm really looking for any good setups that occur off of these three support levels down here below, the 250s, 240s, the 200s, and the 150s. So if we get anything in there, a good setup. I mean, look at this. This was in the pre-market here this morning, but really held this 150 or 250 level quite well. That ended up being the overnight low here, this light blue line, but that really would have set up a nice long. The other long that is possible. I don't like it as well on the NASDAQ here, but yesterday's low of day, not sure if I'll take it. I would want to pull back down into these levels again, the 240, 250, 150, or the 200. Let me rephrase that, the 150, 200, and 250. I think that's the easiest way to look at that on the NASDAQ. Not quite as clear on the NAS as I would like it, so I really want to see these holds or a setup come in and pull back to these levels. ES, I think, is the most clear for me today. We've got a really, really, really nice setup on the ES. Actually, a couple of them. If you look at this orange line is the daily 200 SMA. That's sitting right here. That's the daily 200, and that's where it's at this today's OPE, or the pre-market session right here where I'm doing this update. That does fluctuate throughout the day, but it doesn't fluctuate much, which is why I just leave it as a static line. But we have a very clearly defined level around the 5890s, which is right at that daily 200. In my opinion, that would be the very best long today off of anything I've looked at thus far. NASDAQ Gold, the Dow, or yes, the four items that I typically trade. So really looking for a pullback into this. That would be an absolute spectacular long, I think. The other one, I didn't put a separate level here, but yesterday's low of day falls in a very interesting spot on the ES. We have these very clearly defined highs coming in here back from last week around this 59.27 area. You've got highs turned into lows for several days here, and then that has flipped once again. So if we get a hold, which we're kind of getting right now, if that ends up being a hold, that could be an excellent long as well. And then likewise, again, like we talked about on the NASDAQ, if we get something above yesterday's high of day, I really, really like that. And I think this is probably going to turn into some levels that we'll need to be marking here in the next couple of days here on both ES and NQ, somewhere around these highs. I just didn't mark them this morning. Again, I've been gone for, a little over a week pretty much, and I'm just kind of getting my bearings reset a little bit. So I'm going to keep this a little bit loose and really just look for good setups above yesterday's highs. So again, I think the big one for me today is the daily 200 on the ES and this level right around the 5890s. I think that is probably one of the most, the easiest and best setups should we get it today. The second one would be this long above yesterday's low, which is really this flip. And this is really what I'm looking for, where you have a break and a retest at these clear and key levels. And we're really getting it right now. I want this to set up in the actual New York session. That's what we'll be looking to trade. If we fall below this 200, I do think that that sets up a really nice short, either around the 58.90 or around the 58.70. This low coming in where you have a high turned into a low, and so if we flip that, now we're taking this previous low and turning it into a new high, and we set up a short down into the daily 100. That could be, you could almost make a case of this arrow being sitting right here around the 58.70s. I think either of these two could be a good short setup if we do get that. So again, pretty clear on the ES. I think these two areas right here are the spots we're really looking at closely today to see if those set up. On gold, there's a lot of, gold has really just kind of been in a sideways chop now for quite some time. This is the 60-minute chart, and there's not a lot here. I mean, I do have several arrows marked down here where I'd be potentially looking for a trade, but it looks like in the overnight session here last night, we went up to try to fill this gap that we've had sitting out here for quite some time. And I don't know, I really, my gut tells me that if we get a little pop here early morning to completely fill this gap, we're just going to fall back down. I just don't feel like gold's in a position right now to really push. That could I could completely be wrong, and we could, I see an absolute ripper of a move. But I'm really kind of looking at this green zone between the 32.75s and the 32.65s. Something either way there could set up a long or a short. And then you also have a pretty clear area down here around the 3200s. If we fall below there, that could set up a beautiful short down into some of these lower levels. Again, I'm going to have to see something pretty convincing at one of these marked levels for me to take a trade on gold, but that's, kind of the areas that I'll be looking at. The key ones for me right here is this level and also this one right here. So I almost could eliminate this. We're not going to be looking for that right now. If that sets up, the ones we're really looking at is shorts below this green zone, shorts below this 3200 area, and possibly longs if we get a pullback into this area for further upside. So again, has to be pretty convincing for me to take the trade on gold today. On the Dow, again, this one here is pretty clear to me. We have a really potentially nice setup. We had a really nice pre-market here. Look at this hold coming in around the 42,335s. I mean, that is just completely solid. The buyers are just not letting price fall below here on the Dow Jones. And look at this previous resistance turned into support. I mean, that is just absolutely textbook. We have this pullback to this area. I just didn't want to take the trade pre-market here, but we'll see if it sets up. The other one that I do like, likewise on ES, on the Dow, is look at this yesterday's low. Yesterday's low coming in right here around the 42,550s, 560s, previous highs, and if we flip that could really set up a nice long. So really looking for these two. If we get a pullback to this 52,330, that could set up a really nice long trade I'll be looking for. If we fall below there, that's the flip we'd be looking at for a short, because obviously then we're looking at these previous highs turning into lows, and then turning that into previous. If that sets up a rejection play where we fall below, we retest that sets up a beautiful break and retest short to the downside down to this 41,900s. So there's a couple of really nice setups here, or potentially really nice setups or trade setups here. If we get something above yesterday's low, or if we get a hold above this 42,330. I think really the clarity for me is very much there on the Dow Jones. And also on the ES. I really like this big setup, this potential, the 58.90 on ES. That's the big one I'll be looking for today. The second one will be this low of day yesterday, and then we flip that right into the Dow Jones, where we have this a very similar setup around the 42,320s and the 42,550s. So those are the big ones. NQ, we're always looking at NQ, always a lot of opportunity for some moves on NQ. It's just not quite as clear to me on NQ. I do like some of these areas down here below, but we do need to see pullbacks into those areas for me to take those longs. So that is the game plan today. We're going to be careful. Hopefully we can get back on the green train and put some positive trades together. So good luck today. If you're trading, trade well. And until next time, take care. And so long.